Hello, this is Eileen, the environmental educator, and in this video, we're going to talk about this headline here: Is carbon removal a realistic climate solution? And um, you don't hear me. I have the solutions the world needs. If you've never been here before, that no environmental voice has allowed since November of '93. There's no carbon solution here. There's not even planting trees here. What we have to do is live responsibly and stop the bleeding and stop our carbon emissions. And not all of them. We don't have to be net zero, right? I mean, our plants and our trees feed off of carbon. There has to be carbon in the atmosphere. Okay, so we don't have to be to net zero as the buzzword is now. But the thing is sequestering it from the air is like recycling a one-time use disposable product. Yeah, okay, it'll maybe get rid of it, but is it solving the problem? No. This right here is solving the problem, and no one will allow solving the problem, ending our disposable society, getting people literate, getting individuals cooperation, leadership by example, which doesn't exist, and then hemp, which can be used for everything, including fuel. Okay, and clean energy is last because the first five are achievable immediately, and they would have already solved our problems. Clean energy, its common use is at best a decade away. It's been talked about for decades and still not achieved. And at best, we're a decade away when we're probably a lot farther than that away. Okay, but here's this article about carbon removal, and I've never been for it. This is here's Mr. Won't Allow Solutions, John Kerry, presidential special envoy for climate, and at the World Economic Forum, and of course John's out there talking ridiculousness, but they say that humans have pumped so much carbon into the air that climate experts now believe even a dramatic reduction in fossil fuel emissions won't be enough. They say we'll also have to remove some of the carbon that's already in the atmosphere if we want to prevent the worst impacts of climate change. Plants naturally do this. As I said, plants and trees feed off of carbon. But the sheer volume of carbon must be sucked out of the air, means that simply planting more trees won't be enough, and that a huge investment into potential technologies, if proven effective and utilized at a mass scale, could help achieve climate goals in the coming decades. Now, these processes use a ton of electricity. What is the environmental educator use? Oh, that's right, none. What does it cost to end our disposable society? Nothing. Buying some reusables, buying a washing station in restaurants, having a dishwasher in stadium concessions, just being responsible. There's no investment in technology, maybe to get hemp utilized, okay? But that's actually a solution. This is not a solution. It says that this is DAC, direct air capture. In the past few years, huge sums of money have been invested into DAC, a controversial new process that uses giant fans to drive air into facilities that use chemical reactions to pull the carbon out of the air and store it either in the ground or repurposed to create certain products. Okay, so currently there's 20 DAC plants in operation around the world, and together they are capable of pulling roughly 0.01 metric tons of carbon dioxide out of the air per year, a tiny fraction of the 980 million metric tons that will be needed each year by 2050, according to the International Energy Agency. Okay, but that didn't stop the Department of Energy from, announcing a 3.5 billion for the fund. Okay, to construct 4 new plants in the U.S., 3.5 billion to construct 4 plants in the U.S. So way out in the future, in the U.S., we're going to have 4 of these plants that do basically nothing, take in basically nothing at a cost of 3.5 billion with cost overruns, what, 5 billion or more, over a billion per one before you start paying operational costs of the federal workers that work there and their insurance and their benefit. Are you kidding me? But people have invested in it. Oh, of course, all the big names: Google, Facebook, Elon, Bill Gates has been. He calls it the most expensive solution. But will Bill Gates allow the solutions that are needed use his voice? Absolutely not. I've talked about that. His foundation has been refusing solutions for well over a decade. Bill himself, in a Reddit Ask Me Anything session, seems to me deleted my question 4 times of like, Bill, hey, I can give you your 0 wish. And it's on my website. There's a page about it here. And but Bill, he, even though he was on what is Anderson Cooper on now? 60 Minutes. He did a segment with Anderson, and he took Anderson to his favorite burger joint, and it was all disposable. And he's like, we got to get rid of all this, talking about the disposable items. And but will he use his voice to do it? No, no, no. I've asked him to team up with Seattle, with Starbucks and the town and Amazon's out of there and you know what, then get the stadium to lead the world. No, 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 no. But he's investing in carbon removal because big tech. If you spend money and throw money at it, that's the solution, but it's not. This isn't the solution at all. Um, Despite dire predictions of what will happen without carbon removal and the potential promise of technology, there's deep division among experts over whether DAC is a legitimate answer to the world's climate challenges. They say it's in its infancy, and they say that it's also a deterrent to actually, reducing our fossil fuels. Right? If we just reduced our fossil fuels, we wouldn't need this. And so, what happens even if they were effective? They get going, they're operational, but they pull the carbon out of the air. Are they going to shut down? No, no, this is now a government operation. You got to keep those people working. Okay. I mean, this is all just ridiculous. It says that governments say that the process will become significantly more efficient and affordable over time. Okay. Well, you know what would be way more efficient and affordable right now is the solutions the world needs that no environmental voice or government will allow. So, it says there's many skeptics. Some scientists argue that it's unlikely that there will ever be enough DAC plants to make a significant dent. Um, it says that one expert estimated that the largest plant capacity currently in operation can only capture 3 second worth of humanity's CO2 emissions in a year. I mean, I'm laughing, but it's not funny. And this is what we're investing on as a solution. And oh, hey, it's urgent, 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 urgent. Oh my God, we have to listen to them all the time, right? But hey, I mean, eventually over time, it will probably become more efficient and affordable. And right now, you're going to wait for it. Right now, we won't allow real solutions, but we're going to spend billions upon billions of dollars to build plants that are completely inefficient. Okay, that will start being inefficient years out in the future. So, this is just it's as ridiculous as everything else that people in charge do. So, yeah, others worry the promise of carbon removal may be used as an excuse to delay the transitions from fossil fuels, as I said, but And then there's a bunch of bullets here. They don't think carbon captures the silver bullet. There is no silver bullet. Um, right here, the article says that the situation is so dire that we need to go all in on every solution that seems even remotely possible. Oh, I don't know. What could that be? Oh, the environmental educator, education and agenda, and global environmental illiteracy and our disposable society, right? Gain individual cooperation, leadership by example in hemp. If that were done years ago, when all of these environmental voices, now approaching 30 years since November of 93, uh, it's approaching 30 years that they have refused the solutions the world needs. Okay? And, if they had done that, we wouldn't even be talking about this situation anymore. And instead, this writer says we need to go all in on every solution that seems remotely possible. Yet, no one will. And this writer doesn't know that. And even if I contacted him, would he write about it? Probably not. That's not what he's paid to do. Okay. So it's they have some questions here about it, and right here at the end. For now, the only guaranteed way to stave off the climate crisis is by preventing pollution in the first place, which is, again, right here, you stop the bleeding. Okay, you stop emitting the carbon instead of thinking about, well, we'll just capture it at the end someday in the future if it ever becomes feasible. And in the meantime, we're going to be screaming about how dire it is while we're keeping from the world the solutions that would prevent the carbon from being emitted. Boy, I laugh, but it's not funny. So right here, this is the World Resource Institute assessing carbon removal pathways, their potential barriers as a policy option to accelerate development as a part of a suite of climate actions. They don't have a suite of climate actions. They have their carbon removal. They talk about in accordance with the Paris Agreement. That's just so absolutely ridiculous. But they say both natural and technological strategies exist to remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and store it through various means, such as in trees and plants, soils and underground reservoirs, rocks, the ocean, right? And even products like concrete. Well, that's new because you're pumping it into the concrete. Now this is the first ones up to the ocean here is where it's been going just naturally. Those are Earth's natural carbon sinks. The ocean absorbs carbon, dissolves carbon basically like, a cup of coffee dissolves sugar. And so, but the oceans are warming because of, how much carbon they're removing from the atmosphere. The oceans are the world's biggest carbon sink. And they're warming, and they're warming down to much deeper depths. So that will affect things. It's all a fine balance. Just like your body keeping yourself alive is a fine balance every single day. Just your temperature goes up up or down a few degrees, you're in danger. Your blood pressure, a million other things. Just the slightest thing can take a human out, and just slight changes can affect how Earth operates. There's a balancing act out there. But the National Academy of Sciences and the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change show that the deployment of carbon removal is critical to achieve and U.S. global emission targets by 2050. Oh, again, three decades in the future. So it's even with rapid investment in emission reductions, the United States could need to remove about 2 gigatons of CO2 per year by mid-century to reach net zero. And yeah, that's just not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. So, this is what they say we need, but the first is the trees and landscaping, and then direct air capture and through investments. Okay, we don't need investments. We don't need billions upon billions of dollars to accelerate U.S. carbon removal and set a set of high priority near-term federal policy options would require up to $6 billion per year in federal funding for the next 10 years. Okay. By comparison, U.S. direct subsidies to the fossil fuel industries are roughly 20 billion per year. Well, why is the United States government subsidizing any industry? Free market capitalism. Okay. So let's get back to what America was supposed to be. But right here, this is a Business Insider article, September 25th, 2021. And yep, the world's biggest carbon removal plant just opened, and it will negate just 3 seconds worth of global emissions, like that first article said. It's just, it was named Orca, and it turned on 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, for after 18 months of construction. The fans are embedded in shipping container-sized boxes. Once the carbon dioxide is separated, it get mixed with water, then travels through snaking fat tubes underground where the carbon cools and solidifies. Through this process, Orca can trap and sequester 4,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide per year, making it the largest facility of its kind in the world. And 4,000 metric tons per year is, what is that? Oh, 3 seconds worth of global emissions. Oh my God. Think of it like a vacuum cleaner for the environment, said energy policy researcher at Columbia University, Julio Friedman. Um, Nothing else can do what this tech does. Well, I can tell you what would be a lot better is not relying on the tech and just not having the emissions to then have to capture. So, but Columbia University, they're Columbia. I saw a little, I think, video about it. Everything that's named Columbia, like CBS, Columbia Broadcasting System, Columbia University, District of Columbia. Okay, so well, yeah, let's not think that Columbia University is any better than any other high-level education institution these days. So, according to the UN, who won't allow solutions since the 90s, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, carbon capture and storage is necessary. This is a necessary part of our best case climate scenarios. Um, okay, that's just that's just ridiculous because the United Nations has been refusing the solutions the world needs since the 90s, and even their executive offices at the United Nations Environment Policy, the office is on my big distribution routinely. I send emails out proving to you, like I hit these people up, and the United Nations has prevented the solutions the world needs since the 90s, and they continue to right now. We don't need their carbon capture. And yeah, at any given moment, it will capture 1/10 millionth of humanity's current emissions. It's remarkable that it's being considered as a part of those plans. Like, yeah, it's just right here, probably the most expensive solution. And somewhere in here, it even says, it's backed by Bill Gates. Two other plants are in planning phases. A Canadian company, Carbon Engineering, which is backed by Gates, started a similar facility in Scotland. And in Texas, there's going to be another one that each of these facilities could remove up to 250 times more carbon per year than Orca. Oh, so that's great. So 250 times more than 3 seconds worth. Okay. Yeah, I guess we're getting to that part where we're becoming more efficient and cost effective. No, it's an absolute abuse of of money, especially when Bill Gates will not allow solutions that just cut our carbon emissions. Okay, so it's just they say it costs $600 to capture 1 metric ton of carbon, since superheating the air takes a lot of energy, right? I mean, the process to take carbon out of the air is a huge energy intensive process, just like recycling to, all of our disposable products that shouldn't even be here in the first place is huge. It's manufacturing, it's packaging. The products get packaged, they get, put in recycle bins that get hauled off till it gets to a place where it's going to be manufactured into another process. Or maybe, there's a number of manufacturing stages where the product's taken and broken down into components, and then those components get shipped off to where they'll be recycled into another product. I mean, it's all just ridiculous when the solution is to just stop the bleeding. But we're not going to do that. They think a price to below 200 is likely by 2030, and a drop to 100 2 decades later. But right, so we're talking 3 decades in the future, and how much are we going to be spending when we shouldn't be spending any of this? Right here, Gates says it's probably the most expensive solution. So why are we doing it? Because Bill Gates and everyone else won't allow real solutions, but he loves throwing his money at high tech because high tech is the solution. No, keep it simple, stupid. High tech isn't the solution. And these carbon capture facilities are as absolutely valueless as electric cars, and no one will allow the solutions the world needs that would stop the bleeding, that would have already solved our problems, and we wouldn't have to be, spending time and energy and listening to these people continue to talk about someday solving a problem that they have refused to solve and they continue to refuse to solve. Okay, so remember that every time you hear the propaganda, people, and stay tuned.